Welcome to episode 152, in which we talk about our road trip.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so I'm Paula Williams.
I'm John Williams.
And we are ABCI, and ABCI's mission is
to help all you ladies and gentlemen out there in the aviation world sell more products and services.
Exactly, and to that end, we undertook a massive road trip. This is the first time we went to NBAA by automobile.
Yeah, from the Salt Lake area.
Exactly, and we were just looking at a map going, a lot of our clients that we have been doing business with for a lot of years, we have never seen, and for some reason we were going to miss them again this year at NBAA. They were coming before we were going or whatever was happening, and we said, what the heck, let's visit some of these folks, right?
Let's preface that with the fact that we wanted a road trip and thought this would be a good opportunity.
Yeah.
And we're going to do some places, and then we decided,
let's just visit these guys.
Yeah, exactly.
On the way.
So we did.
And we had so much fun, and I think we're going to make this an annual thing when we go to NBAA, visit some clients on the way to make that work a little bit better. So we're going to talk about what we did and what we, learned and everything else today. So this episode, of course, is brought to you by our Sales and Marketing Lab, and that is where all of our clients get together and talk about things like plan road trips. That was a little bit unexpected, but we also do networking opportunities. We had our breakfast at NBAA. We have a private Facebook group where people get to hang out even if they are not geographically in the same place.
Yes.
Custom consulting, our office hours and things like that. Our book club, another opportunity to talk about stuff. SEO reports, which are really helpful for a lot of people to figure out what's going wrong and how to fix that. And also monthly projects. We do a different thing every month. In October, it is budgets and planning. In November, it's going to be sales and follow-up. So,
exactly.
Right. You tackle one project a month, and in a year, you've got 12 things that are much better about your company, right?
Yes.
And you're not trying to do everything at once.
Which is not a good thing.
Right. Okay.
But people do it.
People do it. Usually not well. Mm-hmm. I think multitasking is highly overrated.
We could talk about that, but yes, on the whole, probably.
Right. Okay, so 3 reasons our road trip was great. Number 1 is challenging assumptions. We all make them even when we don't know that we're making them. Number 2 is business relationships. And number 3 was fun.
Yep.
Which was our reason for going to begin with. This is one of my very favorite quotes from Mark Twain. Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. He could be talking today, couldn't he?
Yes, he could.
Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth. So I love that, and there were some assumptions that I had about some places and things that turned out to be completely unfounded. And I consider myself to be a fairly open-minded person, right?
Tell me it isn't so.
Exactly. Okay. Another reason for our trip, and a reason it was great, was because it's good business. A study by the Harvard Business Review confirms that most leaders put great importance on doing business in person. This is the whole reason for the no plane, no gain thing from NBAA, right? Mm-hmm. They link it directly to the bottom line. The study shows that 87% of professionals think that face-to-face meetings are essential for sealing the deal, while 95% say it's the key to successful, long-lasting business relationships. Now, on this trip, we were visiting our existing clients, and the complete opposite of all of that, fun, right?
Yep.
What was really interesting is I was talking to somebody at one of the networking events at NBAA, and I talked about how he had gone to Disney World the night before, and he was like, well, your kids are grown up. Why did you do that?
Fun.
All right. And, I had a glass of wine, but the first thought that popped into my head was, oh, I'm so sorry that you feel that way. Does your family know that you're dead? It is really, really sad that people are not having fun anymore, that they get to be all business. And what is wrong with going to an amusement park just for the purpose of having fun? I know it's expensive and it's a lot of money, but it is so much fun.
And actually, in this particular case, the expense was actually nothing because of some other things that happened on the trip.
Right.
And
You can always make it work.
Right.
It's just a question of, are you willing and able to have fun? And the whole trip was fun.
And the reason for this slide is that she got checked out on this animal.
If you've seen the movie Pandora, you know exactly what we're talking about. This is an ikran, or a banshee, right? There's a ride at Disneyland that we stood in line for 3 hours, but more about that later. So it wasn't 3 hours. That's what they said the line was going to be.
No, I said it was going to be. It's actually closer to 1 hour.
Exactly.
And it's a brand new ride, so it's not that big a deal.
Mm-hmm. So more on setting expectations and Disneyfying your marketing later in this podcast, right?
Okay.
Okay. So this is where we went. Started in Salt Lake City, went to Omaha, Nebraska, St. Louis, Missouri, Terre Haute, Indiana, Charleston, South Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina, Orlando, Florida, New Orleans, Galveston, El Paso,
And back.
and home, right? So we were on the road for a total of almost a week and a half.
2 weeks and a half.
2.5 weeks, exactly. Time flies when you're having fun.
Mm-hmm.
Most places we only spent one night, except for Orlando, of course, where we spent pretty much the whole week. Cool. So Omaha, Nebraska, right?
Mm-hmm.
I visited Omaha before and wasn't a huge fan. Of course, it was December. It was Christmas of last year, and we've got a kid that lives in Omaha, and it was like minus 17 degrees every day, and so you walk outside and your face freezes. It was just no fun.
Minus 20.
Oh, man. That was so not fun.
Yeah.
So it was good to go back to Omaha and realize that my assumptions about the fact that I hate that city were unfounded, right?
It's nice in the summer.
It is nice in the summer. And this is a very nice person in Nebraska. This is how they welcome you to a hotel room in Nebraska. Welcome home, dear. I hope you have a great stay with us. I was kind of taken aback by that, but I thought it was really sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how they fold dish towels in Nebraska.
Yes.
Who knew? But if you can, I'm not sure if this was the housekeeping staff that just decided to do this, or if this was the hotel that decided to do this.
It was the housekeeping staff.
Yeah, but we're all in the hospitality industry in one way or another, and if you have fun and if you let your staff have fun, it's just so much nicer for everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cool. So, St. Louis. This is a lovely Italian restaurant called Vito's in the Valley. Having lunch with Debbie Murphy and Jeremy Cox from Jet Brokers, and they recommended the place. It's absolutely fantastic. The food is really good. Mm-hmm. And we had such a great time with Jeremy and Debbie. So the company was also fantastic. And then we got to see their office. And Jeremy actually kind of gave us a tour of the airport. He was introducing us to everybody at the Spirit of St. Louis airport. And he knows everyone. He's such a great sales guy. And he is always in receive mode, I guess is what they call it in the sales textbooks. So I was actually really inspired by Jeremy. Anyway, it was a great lunch, and I learned a lot every time we visit one of our clients. So
yes, we do.
That was fantastic. And all of these airplanes, and this is actually up through 2008 when they discontinued these particular frames, are aircraft that were sold by Jet Brokers. And somehow we managed to let Debbie escape before we got the picture taken. So unfortunately, she's not in the photo, but Jet Brokers was a lot of fun, and we really enjoyed it with Tom and Debbie and Jeremy, right?
Yep.
Okay. Terre Haute, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
Right, okay.
Nice place.
The crossroads of America, which is actually really cool. And we were visiting a company called Turbines Incorporated. They're kind of a new client to us this year, but we've spent a lot of time with them and had a lot of fun. They do a lot of work in-house, and it's an old-fashioned, family-run, really amazing company where they put all of their time and money into doing good work and none of it into a nice waiting room, right?
Right.
So, they do have a really nice part of the office, and, this is the nicest part of the office, is this wall with all of these certifications and awards and everything else that they have on the wall there. It's just really impressive. Right. But it's interesting how you work with people for a long time, and, we've worked with these guys via Zoom, teleconferencing. We talk on the phone with them. We go back and forth with emails. But there was a lot of stuff that they do that we had no idea they did. They build these custom filter boxes out of sheet metal for certain applications that they do. And it's like, well, we didn't know you did that. Well, you never asked. Well, how would I know to ask? There's a lot of things that you never really put together until you visit, right?
Yeah, and they let us walk through their shop, and sure brought back memories, because I used to run a maintenance shop in the Air Force, and I used to stand around and think, this would be fun to get back into again.
Right, and now you want a whole bunch of things for your workshop. They have toys.
Yes.
Yes, they do. They also have donuts. These are square donuts, which are a Terre Haute exclusive, apparently.
So we're told.
Right. So that was a lot of fun. And these two ladies are taking over Terre Haute, Indiana. Actually, they've already taken over Terre Haute, Indiana. I know Jane Santucci, she's on the right, exactly. She's running for county government and doing really well, doing a lot of great work in the community, and she's also working with Turbines Inc. on their marketing.
Right.
And the lady on the left, that's Peg Mills. She's been running the company and several other enterprises in Terre Haute for a lot of years, and is running the city. So between the two of them, they've got that place just humming along in really good order. So it's nice to meet a couple of women powerhouses of a Midwest city, right? Mm-hmm. Really a lot of fun. So, Greenville. This was cool for a whole bunch of reasons. This is where we have a client that we've been working with for 9 years and have never met in person.
Right.
Exactly. On the way there, we had a little bit of adventure. So then, of course, we go on a road trip a few weeks later, and we hear about Hurricane Michael on the news, which was coming ashore at Mexico City Beach in Florida on the Panhandle, and then coming up toward where we were. This is the closest we ever got to it. We are the little blue dot here. So we got a lot of rain. This was more rain than I've ever seen. Of course, I grew up in Utah, where we don't get that much rain in 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. As we got in one day in Greenville. So that was pretty cool. It was kind of neat to see.
It was odd because the drops were like very small, not large, not real large like New Orleans style rain, but there was billions of them.
The volume of water coming out of the sky was just phenomenal. It was really amazing. And in fact, John pulled up, because we were on our way to SSC's office and we had a bunch of papers and things like that we didn't want to get wet. So
they didn't have an overhang in the hotel we were staying at. So I backed up to the front door of the place.
To the door, right?
And blocked everybody while we loaded the trunk.
Exactly. So that was...
But nobody complained because they knew what was going on.
Being resourceful, right? We got there reasonably dry and it all worked out. So very cool. All right. So Special Services Corporation, they are a very cool company. And what they mean by special services is every one of their customers, they create a separate plan for each of them that is custom. Whether they're doing management of their airplanes or maintenance or charter services or anything else that they do. Each of their clients is handled differently depending on that owner's preferences and their priorities and everything else. So
exactly.
Really amazing in a world where most things are very programmed and very one size fits all. They're very cognizant of the fact that every one of their clients has a different set of priorities and a different set of preferences. This is some maintenance that they were doing, and John once again got in and had some fun in the shop and took some pictures and things.
I didn't have any fun in the shop, but I remembered things.
Right. And these guys are so particular. They're every single nut or screw that they take out, they put in a little baggie with them. But they are incredibly detailed about the way that they do it. Another thing in Greenville is the Greenville Downtown Airport Park. So the rain went away by the time we left SSC. And we got to go play in the park. And one of the really cool things that they did with this park is they worked with a bunch of sponsors to create an educational park. So they've got these little things all over the place talking about spinners and cowlings and propellers and all of the things that kids ask about.
Now, you implied they as SSC. They worked with them, but it was Laura that did this.
Yeah, Laura Kaufman at the Greenville Downtown Airport. And the Park Association and all of the folks that have been involved with this, a bunch of different sponsors and things. So this is a project of the Greenville Downtown Airport.
An effort to get kids into the airport to be looking at airplanes and have things to look at and learn.
Mm-hmm. You know, you talk about the pilot shortage and the mechanic shortage and all of these things. How do you fix that when kids can't come within miles of an airplane because of all the security and things? What they've done is they've solved that problem by creating this park where they drop the kids off, and they can drop off an entire busload of fourth graders, and then they can take 6 of them at a time and do tours of the tower, or walk around an airplane or do other things with the individual companies and individual.
And they can watch airplanes land and take off because it's right next to the runway.
Right. So it's a really neat airport and a really neat park. And I love the way they put this together. They've used airplane parts whenever they can and airplane concepts whenever they can for the different parts of the park. Mm-hmm. This is a kind of a walkway that goes through the middle of the park, and you can see it's still wet from all that rain. They have good drainage in Greenville. That's one really good thing. They've got an airplane on a pole that people can see. They've got airplane parts as parts of the playground there. They have this playground has different things that kids can play with and crawl through and hang out in. And
all the signs are informative to give you a high-level talking knowledge of what they are.
Exactly. So even if you took a 4-year-old to this park, you would have fun and they would learn something about airplanes. Mm-hmm. We went to this park and had a good time too. We had lunch at the Runway Cafe, which is right there at the park. So fun stuff. Okay, Charleston, South Carolina. Beautiful town. Actually, Greenville was beautiful too. I was really amazed at how gorgeous it was with all the big trees and wide avenues and beautiful buildings and everything else. This is something that we were dared to eat by Brian Chase.
Not dared, but suggested emphatically.
Exactly. I would not, from the description on the menu, have ordered this for any amount of money. It's a piece of fried chicken on a biscuit with sausage gravy, right?
Yeah, it's sausage and cheese, and I don't know what all they put on it.
Right, but I have always thought, and here's a prejudice, that sausage gravy was heavy, greasy, salty, nasty, horrible stuff.
Well,
right?
They call it the nasty.
The Big Nasty. That's the name of this meal, or this breakfast. And but this is fantastic. I would do this again. I would order this again tomorrow if we were in Charleston. In fact, we should go to Charleston to have this for breakfast again and to see Brian. So that was cool. Brian Chase, Chase Aviation, invited us to breakfast at the Hominy Grill, and we had a really great conversation, and this was part of it. The coffee was fantastic as well, and the scenery and the conversation. And
oh, yeah.
Had a great time. So, yeah, this is the Hominy Grill, and it's in a really nice area near the Battery Park and the waterfront.
This restaurant has been here since
the beginning of time.
Yeah, since God was a kid.
Right.
A long time.
Mm-hmm. And it's in a beautiful part of town, and just a really nice place to visit. So, yeah, Brian Chase, Chase Aviation in Charleston. And great guy to work with for aircraft sales, acquisitions, other kinds of things. I know he works with piston aircraft as well as the larger business jets and things like that. So this picture's of us taking. You can see the Hominy Grill sign, and we're standing in front of our land yacht. Right. Yeah, that is the land yacht in which we did this whole episode. And speaking of the land yacht, it was getting pretty grubby by this time. So we took it to the best car wash we have ever seen, also in Charleston. Mm-hmm. You can't really see in there, but there are no machines in this place. I mean, there are a few machines, but it's mainly a human-operated car wash. Right. You got, people with brooms and rags and stuff doing all this stuff. And, one of the really interesting things is when you walk into the place, this is on a wall that everybody sees, and would you even imagine that people would spend a year at a car wash, or 5 years at a car wash, or 36 years at a car wash, or 56 years at a car wash? In fact, the gentleman that runs the place now has been there longer. He's been there longer than the founder, because the founder passed away a few years ago. Exactly. Yeah, John had to ask him, now how could you possibly have, since the founder has 49 years of service and this guy has 56 years of service, how did you do that? But the founder passed away. So Mr. McGinnis is the founder of this this car wash, and he obviously used it as a way to help people get where they want to go in life, by by working hard and doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yep.
And this is the guy that runs at Perry Capers, and you got to hang out with him a little bit and talk with him. And I love this quote also: what you get by achieving your goals is not as important as what you become by achieving your goals. So,
Exactly.
that's a Mr. McGinnis quote. So really neat to see some of these businesses and how they work. Whether or not they're in aviation, there's things that you can want to be when you grow up. And, we want to treat employees like this when we grow up, assuming we ever have employees that are with us for 36 years.
Right.
Okay, this is the land yacht. And that's obviously the fantastic shiny job that they did on it. So.
Yep.
Okay, Orlando, which is our original destination. We were in this room right there.
Yep.
It was a lot of fun, and really nice place to stay because it was nicely located and also a nice refuge from the craziness of the theme parks and the convention center and everything else. So speaking of theme parks, this is the Valley of Moana in the Hallelujah Mountains on the planet of Pandora.
Yep. And if you haven't seen Avatar,
Go see it.
Go see it, and you'll recognize this.
Right. So what happened here is they have a line that they say is going to be 3 hours.
165 minutes.
For this ride, exactly. And it's on their little app, so you can see how long it's going to be. It is also on a sign held by a person who is standing at the end of the line, wherever that travels throughout the park. And they do really good line management. They also do really good expectation setting.
The line winds in and around through all of these hills and mountains until you end up in the inner sanctum.
Inside the ride, which also winds around inside the mountain in a bunch of different places where you're seeing the scientific stuff that they're doing on this planet and all kinds of things.
But the ride is, you sit on a
motorcycle kind of body?
Well, you sit on a device that's got like a full motion sim. Right? All degrees of freedom. And then you put on your goggles, so it's AI augmented as well as it's amazing because once that thing starts, you're not there anymore. You're on the back of one of those Banshees. Right,
flying around these mountains, and it's really fantastic. And I also love the way that they combined, vegetation in Florida is pretty awesome to begin with. But what they've done is they've taken these trees and ferns and other crazy things, and then they have mixed it together so artfully with fake things that you can't tell where the artifice begins. And this is, to me, it's really fantastic marketing to take something that already exists and add the poetry and the art to it, so that there's still elements of reality there, but making it cooler and better and neater. And you're here for amusement, so that's what you're here for, and they give you that in spades. So, fantastic job by Disney as always. The ride was very much worth it, and even if it had been a 3-hour ride or 3-hour wait, it would have been great, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we heard that on the first day it opened, the wait was in excess of 9 hours.
Yeah, I don't even know if they're open for 9 hours at a time.
Yeah, they are. They're open, but
oh man, yeah. Make sure you go to the bathroom before you get in line for this ride, right?
Yeah, because they even have signs that at a certain point there are no bathrooms from here on.
Exactly, and if you cut out, you're out. So they are very good at law and order at Disney,
right.
in the nicest possible way. So there's no cutting in line, which also reduces the frustration of everybody in line because they know they're going to get their turn, and things are managed really, really well. So, highlight of the trip, breakfast at NBAA. This was a lot of fun. There's Jeremy Cox from, and that's Debbie Murphy over by me on the other side, who we missed at the show, and Robin Frey from Aerostar, and BizJet CPA. That is Laura Sandusky from BizJet CPA, and Lori Noper from LD Aviation met us for breakfast at the Marriott Grand Vista Grill. And we had a really great breakfast and had fantastic conversation, and everybody had a good time talking with each other. And that's one of the few times we get to see each other in person. And of course, we never get everybody there because it's NBAA and everybody's busy, but we try to get everybody together at least once and see what we can do, right?
Yep.
Okay. Press kits at NBAA, those are ours, the coolest ones, of course.
Of course.
We bait them with chocolate. So, we put in press releases from all of our customers and make sure that those are really attractive so that we get good relationships with the media and so on. And NBAA actually was a great show. It seemed to be pretty large. Had a good time. Lots of shiny objects. Always enjoy NBAA, and it was a good show. One thing that was different this year that I thought was really cool was NBAA TV. So we've been talking a lot more about video. In fact, in our content packages, we've been allowing people to substitute one article for a short video, because video is being used everywhere. Mm-hmm. And NBAA is following suit as well. Even at the show, you're physically at the show, and still they're showing you videos at these little kiosks. So there are people standing around watching TV when the real thing is right there, just a few steps away. But, by the third day, 100 steps is too far. So you'll watch it on video instead of walking around. But it just goes to show that video is getting to be cheaper to use, easier to use, more prevalent in the aviation world, and more effective, or they wouldn't be spending the time and money on it, right?
Right.
Okay. Big screens everywhere. And I think that's probably going to be one of our biggest focuses in 2019, is building videos for people's kiosks, building videos for people's websites, videos for their YouTube, all over the place. There's lots of ways to use.
Well, you got big screens
video.
in the office.
I have huge screens in the office. Makes me very happy. And yeah, a lot of booths had screens at them, where people were watching videos and other things. So product demos and other things that are really hard to do in a booth, you can at least do on a screen behind you, where you can point and explain and all those things. All right. Robert De Laurentiis' presentation in the Innovation Zone. Robert De Laurentiis is piloting a turbo commander called Citizen of the World, and they are going from San Diego to the South Pole, to the North Pole, and back to San Diego.
Right.
They call it a circumpolar navigation.
First time it's been done.
Exactly.
It's a highly modified commander. It's got engines have been replaced with engines from a drone, the Predator, as a matter of fact, and the props have been designed 6-bladed scimitar, and it's been authorized to add enough fuel tanks to get a 5,000-mile range with some extra out of it. And if anybody knows the turbo commander, they don't go that far.
Right. Exactly. So this was a really great opportunity. And the Innovation Zone, I thought, was a really cool thing on NBAA's part, because it's kind of a casual atmosphere. It's a little bit more interactive than a regular presentation. And so people got to ask questions about the trip and about the airplane and about piloting solo that far, and fatigue and temperature and all kinds of things. That was a really interesting conversation. So.
Yep.
And full disclosure, Robert is a client as well.
Yep.
We are helping him promote some of his products over the Christmas holidays. So, coloring books, challenge coins, compression socks, which are great for people that fly a lot and, go on long trips and things. Sunglasses, flight bags, really neat stuff. So if you're looking for gifts for the pilots in your life, that's a really good place to look, is the DeLaurentisFoundation.org, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Next was the infamous Big Easy, right? New Orleans. Yep. And we had to look up, why do they call it the Big Easy? What does that mean? And it was actually started by a newspaper writer who compared the Big Apple, which is New York, to New Orleans, which is the Big Easy.
And it's pronounced New Orleans.
New Orleans.
No, New Orleans.
Okay. John lived there for a while, so
yep.
I won't even try. All right, so this is, I think this is Bourbon Street.
No, this is St. Charles.
St. Charles,
We just turned off Bourbon Street on St. Charles en route to the hotel.
Exactly. French Quarter anyway, really cool area. We've been there before. Last time we were there was before the flood, so this is really neat to see that everything has come back. This is a steakhouse, Dickie Brennan Steakhouse. The best meal we had in the whole trip.
Maybe except for the breakfast.
Maybe except for breakfast in Charleston. So I apologize, Brian. You have a close tie, I think. We'll call this one the best dinner of the trip, for sure.
The steak was amazing.
Oh, yeah. Really, really good.
The service was amazing.
And they run this place the same as they have for hundreds of years. They've got the history on the menu.
Dickie Brennan's, right? Or
Dick
Brennan's.
Exactly. We went to our hotel, and we were unloading our stuff, and the concierge asked us where we were going for dinner, and we told him Morton's, I think.
Yeah, I think
and he said, "No, you're not. You're going to Dickie Brennan's, and here's how you get there, and here's a map, and I'm making a reservation for you, and you tell me how it was when you get back." And we did, and it was really amazing. And the bossy concierge really pulled it off this time.
Yeah, we walked over there and they said, "Do you have a reservation?" I said, "Well, I don't know." The concierge called, and they had us. Yep. So he got us in 10 minutes before we got there.
Exactly. So and it was about a 10-minute walk from the hotel.
So, good.
Right, because our feet still hurt from NBAA, so we weren't going to go very far. And of course, the next morning had to have beignets and chicory coffee at the Café du Mons, right?
That's it, Café du Mons, yes. It's quite interesting. We used the GPS. They wanted us to park, way away. I said, no. I know this town. So we drove down to the street in front of Café du Mons, and I pulled in the parking place where it said no parking. Except on Sunday. Except on Sunday,
right. So if we hadn't read the sign, we'd, still be looking for a parking place.
And then we walked across the street, and she wanted to go stand in line. I said, "No, that's not how you do this here." So we walked in front of the line, right into this inner sanctum, sat down, and were served within 5 minutes.
It's good to go with a local. So. That's fantastic. Even though you haven't been a local for a really long time.
No, but I remember the place.
Right. Some things never change, right?
Yep.
All right. Galveston, Texas was our next stop. This was actually really a beautiful little town. They've had a lot of weather, and you can tell that there are still some things that are not in the best of shape, but it's still a charming place to visit.
Yep.
We took a ferry from
Point Boulevard
to...
No, Boulevard Peninsula, sorry.
The Boulevard Peninsula, right, to Galveston, and stayed with some friends there. It was a really nice stop on the trip, and visited the Strand in Galveston. This is one of the buildings there that was really amazing. You can tell the architecture is amazing, and there is no paint used in any of this brickwork. It's natural colors of the dirt in different places around Texas. And you can tell they've got a really wide variety of geography because they make bricks out of this dirt, and they will never have to paint this building. It's just that color.
Yep.
Really cool. We visited this shop that has all of this salvage from ships. They've got bells, they've got lights, they've got sextants, they got chests, they got spars and
captain's
bits
logs,
of
charts.
Yep, captain's logs, flags, bits of paper from.
It's just quite an interesting place to walk through.
Oh yeah, this was so much fun. I mean, it's just history all over the place. And if you have an interest in boats and ships, and a lot of aviation people do, this is the place to go, right? Okay. El Paso, if you want a pair of boots, let me tell you where to get boots. They've got factory outlets up one side and down the other, and there are more cowboy boots within any square mile area than anywhere on the planet, I think, in El Paso, Texas. Is that true?
I wouldn't know, but
I think that's true.
You tried on boots till you're blue in the face until you found a pair, and then we got them.
Exactly, right. And it actually was like the second pair I tried on. And, tried on 100 more pairs and then went back to the second one that I tried on. So 3 reasons the road trip was great: challenging assumptions, business relationships, and fun. Right, absolutely. So once again, this episode was brought to you by our marketing lab. We'd love to have you join us, and then you will be on our on our map
On our list.
of places to visit. And we'd love to sit down with you and talk about how we can help you sell more stuff.
Yep,
right?
that's right.
Okay. So thanks for joining us. If you'd like to sit down with us virtually sometime before we're in your neighborhood next, just click this button on our website and set up a time that's convenient for you. Pick any open time from our calendar, and we'd love to sit down with you and talk about what you've got going on, what challenges you have, and we'll get going on something, make things better for you. Have a great afternoon. We'll see you next time.
See you next time. Enjoy.